Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Monday, if you're in Vancouver, it's a very hot Monday. I hope everyone's staying cool this morning. I'm just gonna check. Good, 29 feels like 35. Excellent. Yes, so good morning. As you can see here, we're doing the online thing. I don't know, maybe some of you have gone into the college because the college has pretty good AC. For me, I'm about I'm about an hour away from the college, so I decided to just stay home. That was kind of an easier choice. But yeah, I hope everyone's staying cool out there. We'll try to get through this class without melting. Okay. Miles is here. Good morning, Miles. Sophie's here. Good morning, Sophie. Jim is here. Good morning, Jim. Michelle's here. Good morning, Michelle. Unadi is here. Good morning to you. Tushin Sana's here. Good morning. And Mark's here. Good morning, Mark. So hopefully we'll be joined by the rest of our people very shortly, but until then, we'll just dive right in, okay? So on Friday, I believe we were talking about the very early stages of the Soviet Union, right after the Russian Revolution in 1917, right? And we said that this guy was pretty responsible for that happening, right? Vladimir Lenin. He's the leader of the Bolsheviks, and we said that he kind of sees a moment in which he can take power, right? So we said the Tsar stepped down in 1917. Sorry, in early 1917, and then there was a provisional government that was trying to, get the country back on its feet again. It was trying to write a new constitution for Russia. It was trying to fight a war in Europe, and there was a lot of kind of division within the government itself. There were different ideas about how the government should be run, and so there were a couple of different coalitions that tried to form together to create some political stability, but that didn't work. There was and Lenin took advantage of this kind of disunity, if you will, to kind of execute a plan to overthrow the government, right? The government of Russia. And so he and his Bolsheviks got their guns and stormed a few government buildings. They stormed the government buildings. They threw members of the provisional government in jail. And just like that, they proclaimed themselves the leader of Russia, right? And so I asked you last class to read this section, which you did, and we were talking about what was in that section of the text, right? So I'll refresh your memory here. We talked a little bit about how Lenin nationalized agriculture, right? And in nationalizing, what he did was he basically made all land became owned by the state, right? By the Russian state. And so that was a little different, right? Because we said that he had promised peace, land, and bread to the peasants of Russia. And the land part was that the peasants wanted land of their own, right? The peasants wanted a little section of land that they could farm. Maybe they could sell the produce from their farm and make a little money, support their families. That's kind of what people were after, right? That was what people wanted. But instead, Lenin turned around and said, oh, okay, now all land belongs to the people, right? But that's not kind of the land ownership that people wanted. People wanted to own their own little plot, right? Their own little farmland. And instead, Lenin, took all of the land for the government and then said, oh, well, it belongs to the people, but individual people didn't own any land. So it wasn't quite what the peasants wanted, right? So Lenin's promise of land was different from what the peasants thought they would get. Okay, so he takes all the land, he puts it under the control of the government. He establishes collective farms, and so these are kind of big farms where everyone works, kind of almost like a factory, right? So instead of people farming their individual piece of land, everybody's working together to farm a huge section of land, which again you think would be more efficient, right? And in some ways it is, but he also saw that the peasants weren't really cooperating, right? Because again, they wanted to work their own little piece of land. They wanted to sell their harvest for a profit. And so working on a big farm that they didn't own and not being able to keep any of their harvest was not really any different than how it was under the nobles, right? Under the Tsar. And so what Lenin saw originally is that a lot of people didn't get on board with this nationalization thing. They started to kind of underproduce, right? So they didn't work very hard on these collective farms. And they took the produce that they created and they sold it on the black market, right? They sold it illegally and tried to make some profit, tried to make some money for themselves. And so Lenin's kind of first attempt to create communism from the top down really didn't work out very well, right? Again, the peasants were not on board. The peasants did not cooperate. So meanwhile, while Lenin is trying to do that, there is of course a civil war going on. And so the Bolsheviks seize power in an overthrow of the state, right? A coup d'etat, if you will. But there's lots of people who don't agree with that. And so a coalition kind of forms to try to push the Bolsheviks out of power again. And so we kind of have a white army, if you will, that's composed of people who are interested in monarchy. They're interested in putting the Tsar back in power. There's people who are trying to create a democracy. There's some foreign powers involved. And all of those are trying to, that white army is trying to kick the Bolsheviks out, right? They want them out of power. But we said that the white army was not really a good match for the red army because, again, they couldn't really agree on anything. They were a bunch of different groups who didn't really agree with each other. All they agreed was that they didn't like the Bolsheviks. And so they had trouble kind of coordinating their efforts. They had trouble cooperating. They didn't really have the support of the people, right? Because the people saw them as either treasonous because there was foreign elements involved, or they thought they were trying to put the Tsar back in power, which the peasants definitely didn't want. And so the White Army wasn't very coordinated. They didn't have a lot of support from the people. And so eventually it's going to be the Red Army that wins. And that kind of solidifies the Bolsheviks, or now the Communist Party, as the leader of Russia, right? So communism wasn't going very well, right? Lenin had created he'd nationalized agriculture. He tried to create these collective farms where people were working. But again, the peasants didn't like it, right? There was still food shortages. People were illegally selling the produce rather than handing it over to the state. And so Lenin tries something different, right? He tries his new economic policy. So he mixes in some elements of capitalism, right? He allows small farms and small businesses to, yes, pay some of their profit to the government, but also keep some for themselves, right? And so again, that's capitalism, right? You produce something, or you make something, you sell it, you give some tax to the government, and then you keep the money that's left over. And so Lenin tries that for small businesses to try to get people to cooperate, right? To get the economy moving, to get people working, to get people producing, right? And we said that it actually does work, right? And so within a few years, the Russian economy has kind of regained the level that it was at before the war. Again, that's not great. The Russian economy was not fantastic before the war, but it's certainly better than it was when the Bolsheviks take power. So that's an improvement, right? His new economic policy does work to some degree, right? But then Lenin will die, right? We said that in probably around 1923, 24, he has a series of strokes, and so that kind of limits his ability to lead the party, and eventually one of those strokes will kill him. And so Lenin will die, and of course there will be the question of who's going to succeed him, right? Who is going to take power after Lenin? Just in case you're interested, this is kind of weird, but if you want to go visit Lenin, you can, because the Russians have, or the Soviets at the time, preserved his body so that people could continue to see him. And so if you're interested in this, and if you're ever passing through Moscow, where you want to go is Red Square. And so this is Red Square here. I think the building that you see behind you is part of the Kremlin, and of course the Kremlin is where Vladimir Putin goes to work. It's the official kind of government building of Russia. But here you can see inside Red Square is a mausoleum, or a tomb of Lenin. And so when you go in, you will see this. And so Lenin is, through some sort of mysterious chemical processes that are top secret apparently, scientists have preserved Lenin's body. And so here he is, lying there as if he just died yesterday, even though it's been it's almost been 100 years, but here he is, and you can actually go and visit him. And as you can see, he looks pretty lifelike. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the processes are for preserving him. And from time to time, they have to close the exhibit to kind of do whatever they do. They have to do it again to make sure he stays preserved. But yeah, here he is. Sophie says in Vietnam they did the same thing with Ho Chi Minh. So Sophie, is my first question is Ho Chi Minh kind of preserved like this, and can you visit him, or is there just kind of a tomb? And and have you visited it? Oh, okay. I'm just Googling it here, so I see the big mausoleum. Yeah, you can go visit him. There he is. Sorry, I'm just Googling this because I'm interested. Yeah, it's interesting how he's copied Lenin in this regard. You visited when you were little. What was it like? Was it kind of interesting for you when you were little, or was it scary, or was it boring, or what did you think of it, or do you remember? I see lots of pictures of the outside, but not so many pictures of the inside. I don't know, maybe you're not allowed to take pictures of him. That makes sense. Okay, so let me just see here. Oh, you didn't register that it was actually him. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? That the leader is kind of preserved in this way. But yeah, if you want to. I guess that's two communist leaders you can visit, right? You can visit Lenin, or you can visit Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam if you want to. Right. So Lenin will die, and we know that the Communist Party is going to need a leader, right? They're going to need someone to succeed him. And so we said that there were kind of three factions, I guess, or three groups within the Communist Party, and they had. There was kind of three people kind of jockeying for position, right? Trying to install themselves as leader. And we said that out on the left wing there's Trotsky, right? So Leon Trotsky is again, he's out on the left wing. He feels that he's a hardcore communist, right? He's a hardcore socialist. He says that we need to have a worldwide revolution in order to maintain socialism in the Soviet Union, and he doesn't like Lenin's new economic policy, right? He thinks the new economic policy is like a betrayal of communism because it's the opposite, right? It's kind of a bit of capitalism. And so Trotsky says, no, we've got to get rid of the new economic policy. We need full-on socialism, and we need other countries to follow suit. We need them to have communist revolutions as well, right? Out on the right wing, we have Nikolai Bukharin, right? And Bukharin is kind of the opposite of Trotsky, right? He says, yes, we need worldwide revolution, but that can wait, right? That can happen later. And he also says that the new economic policy, yeah, that's pretty good, right? It's working. Yes, it's not communism, it's not socialism, but it's working for now, right? So we should continue it until we can kind of transition to full-on communism, right? So Trotsky is like, nope, we need pure communism, pure socialism right now. Bukharin is like, well, we'll get there, right? Just let's be patient. And then in the middle, we have Joseph Stalin, right? And we said that Stalin was a little different in that he said that we don't really need a worldwide revolution for socialism. We can build socialism here in the Soviet Union, right? We don't need other countries to join. We can just sort of be the model for other countries. But he also believed in pure socialism. So he wasn't interested in keeping Lenin's new economic policy going either. And so after some, arguing and discussion and political maneuvering, we know that Joseph Stalin is going to come out on top, right? So he's kind of in the center, right? So he's the less extreme of the two positions. And he also is kind of a shrewd political operator, right? And so he manages to work to push the other guys out of the inner circle. And Bukharin is going to get kicked out of the Politburo, so the political office of the Communist Party. He's going to get kicked out. Trotsky's going to get kicked out too. Later, Trotsky's going to get kicked out of the country, and then Stalin will have him assassinated later on. And so Joseph Stalin is able to kind of push the other guys out of the way and make room for himself, right? And so I said that Joseph Stalin's an important guy in the history of the Soviet Union, and because the Soviet Union is so important to world history, he's very important in the history of the world, right? He's a key figure, just like Hitler is. But I think he gets a lot less attention than Hitler does. And so I'd like to pay a little bit of attention to him now and see what we can learn about him, okay? Because again, he's the one who's going to create the Soviet Union, right? Lenin sort of overthrows the government and sort of starts to put communism into place, but he doesn't really succeed because he has to deal with a civil war and then he dies right away. And so the Soviet Union won't be shaped by Lenin. The Soviet Union will be shaped by Stalin, right? Stalin's the guy who's going to make this country what it becomes. So again, it's worth paying attention to who he is, right? I showed you this on Friday just because I'm insanely jealous of Joseph Stalin's hair. But that aside, there's other things we need to know about him. So what I would like to ask you to do is to read this section of the textbook, okay? And so I think I've got it in Microsoft Teams here, and I think it is... Actually, is it in there? Let me just check. Let me just see. I thought I had put it in there, but maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, okay. So I'll just make sure it's in Microsoft Teams. What I'd like you to do is to read this very short section of the textbook. So it's just 2 pages, little biography on Stalin, and I would like you to answer, oh no, hang on. Yep, sorry. I'd like you to answer the following questions, okay? So questions are this: what kind of person was Joseph Stalin? How can we, if somebody asked you, what's this guy like? What would you tell them? Okay. Second question. Often when we're trying to describe someone who's horrible or someone who does horrible things, we very quickly pull Hitler out of the hat as the example, right? Somebody who's bad is automatically compared to Hitler. But Stalin is not treated the same, right? We don't often pull Stalin's name out to say, oh, you're a bad person, you're just like Stalin. Why do you think that might be? Why is Hitler the more kind of stereotypical bad guy, whereas Stalin is less so? Okay? And then third question are, what are some of the things that you think motivated Stalin to do what he did? So we know that he's, of course, leader of the Soviet Union. We know that he is a very strong, powerful leader. And we also know that he's, or we'll find out shortly, that he's going to go about things in a way that's going to cause millions and millions of people to die. So I'd like to hear your answers to these three questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some time on the clock here, and I'm going to give you a few extra minutes as well, because what I want you to do is actually type out some of your answers so that you can add them into the live chat and we can discuss them, okay? So I'll put some time on the clock here. A minute. I'll put some time on the clock here. I'll ask you to read this biography of Joseph Stalin that you will find in Microsoft Teams. Again, it's very short. Answer these three questions, type them out, or type out some answers so you can put them in the live chat and I can see them, and then we'll discuss, okay? So I'm gonna mute myself here. I'm gonna turn on my fan so I don't die of heat stroke, and I'll let you read, okay? So read, and then at the end of the time we'll discuss, okay? Okay. So, are we good? Are we ready to talk about some of these? Or, you know what? I went a little bit long in social justice. So why don't we, now that we've read and we've hopefully got some answers, let's take a little break. We'll come back after the break and then we'll talk about these three. Okay? So let's do that first. So take 10 minutes, cool off, stand in front of the fan, get a drink of cold water. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'll see you in just a few minutes. Okay? Okay, and we are back. So, um, obviously we read this little section of the textbook. So in the live chat here, let me know how would you describe this guy? How would you describe Stalin if somebody asked you? Because I'm asking you. Yeah, so just in the live chat, how would you describe this guy? Okay, so not seeing anything in the live chat. Maybe what I'll do is, if you're here still, just let me know. Give me a quick hi if you're still here, okay? Quick hi in the live chat if you're still here. Last call, people. I need a hi if you're still here. Okay, just type it into the live chat. There we go. Nadi's still here. It's good. Anyone else? Mark's still here. Okay, so just two. So I think what I might do then, Mark and Unadi, is I'm just gonna hit pause on this and we'll end class here and we'll try again tomorrow because again, everybody seems to have left or just not shown up. So I think it's tough to kind of make this happen in an online format when nobody's here. So I'll end class here and then we'll finish discussing this tomorrow. So Mark, um, that's a good observation there, but we'll hold on to it, hold on to it until tomorrow, and then we'll deal with it then. Okay, so I'm letting you guys off the hook. It is pretty hot. It's pretty hot to teach too. Um, but yeah, I'll end the live stream here, and we'll pick this up right here with the biography of Joseph Stalin tomorrow. Okay, so okay, Mark and Unadi, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so have a good afternoon. Mark, I know you're in Vancouver, so try to stay cool. Okay, and you too, Unadi. So okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.